Most people think that life is working against them. Like no matter how hard they try, something is pushing them back. So they try harder, they try more, and they force change. And somehow things get heavier, not easier. So they conclude that their life is unfair, or rigged, or that they're unlucky. But the truth that most people never consider is that life isn't resisting you, it's responding to you. And if you don't understand the rules of the game that you're playing, you can work forever and still lose. So let me explain to you how the game actually works and how you can fix it in your favor. Okay, so the first part that I'm going to take you guys through is why most people are playing the game of life wrong, and ultimately why playing the game of life wrong will lead you to a reality that you do not wish to see. So most people think that their actions directly create their results. They believe that there is a direct correlation between action and result, meaning when they do something, they are expecting a result for their action, which is true to some extent, but I'm going to break down in a little minute why that is not the whole case. That is not the whole truth. But what this ultimately leads to, so they have a belief that my actions create results. This leads them to doing, the prioritization of doing over everything else. But what they don't realize is the more that you prioritize doing over everything else, you begin to correlate doing with your ability to find results, which is true at some level, but I'm going to tell you why that's not wholly true altogether. So what they think is doing creates results. But when they don't experience the results that they're looking to see, they ultimately think something's wrong. And because they think something's wrong, they think they need to do more. But without knowing, they actually set themselves up for failure because it is predicting and forcing an emotional state of force. And force ultimately leads to resistance. Resistance ultimately is telling the universe that you are not in control. We have this annoying law of the universe, if you wish to call it, and it is you can only have what you already have because you are the universe experiencing itself through a physical body, of course. So that means that when you force action, when you force yourself to do more, you are ultimately telling life, God, the universe, that you are out of control, that you are not in control. So it will give you more states, more scenarios, more events where you are not in control because that is the signal that you are sending out. Most people think that life is just happening to them. Oh, life just happens to me. But it's actually happening through them. What they're experiencing, every single thing that they're experiencing, the outcomes, the people, the events, the circumstances, the bad shit that happens to them, they are internally creating. And it almost sounds too good to be true when you first hear it. But ultimately, what we need to understand is that life mirrors your state. And I'll touch on what state is in the next part a little bit deeper. But ultimately, whatever state you are operating from, is going to predict the results that you see. You could take all the right action and be in the wrong state and therefore never see the results that you wish to see. Simply put, let's say that you are in a state that isn't going to serve you. You're in a state of scarcity, a state of lack, a state of negative. You're going to take all right effort, but because you're in the wrong state, it's going to lead to resistance. And maybe that's resistance within the work that you're doing. Maybe you feel like it's hard to show up after a while because you're doing, but you're not seeing the results. And because you're not seeing the results, you don't want to do it. And eventually that's going to lead to burnout. And then it's funny because this original way of thinking, which is doing over everything else, when you hit burnout, then you ain't doing shit because you can't energetically, you have no energy left. You can't force yourself to do something when you feel like you can't do it in the first place. But let's switch that. Let's flip that upside down on its head. Let's say that you embodied a state that actually served you. And all of a sudden, the work isn't just effort, it's actually alignment. You start operating from a version of you that feels aligned with the work that you're doing. You wake up excited to take action to solve that problem within your business, within your life, within the finances, whatever the case may be. And that leads to momentum. And honestly, energetic momentum is so underrated in today's day and age. In any day and age, to be completely honest with you, I feel like it's not talked about enough. When you have momentum, it's like life is on your side. And I want to touch on what the states ultimately are and how we can use this to our advantage. Because I feel like when I say physical plane, and this is all going to link back together, I'll explain it down here. But ultimately, imagine that we have 3 planes. You have your spiritual plane, you have your mental plane, and you have your physical plane. Everyone, solely operates on this physical plane of existence, but it is the plane of effect. It is the limited plane of living, because this is the plane where results happen. And we think that in order to create the results on the physical plane, we need to take more action on the physical plane. But what if I told you that that is backwards thinking? That is what's going to keep you from actually getting to the results that you want to see. And the only action that you need to take is on the spiritual and mental plane of existence. And I'll touch on deeper throughout this video what that action looks like, but I just want you guys to gain a bit of an understanding, is that we are metaphysical beings. We aren't just physical beings. We have a spirit, we have a mind, and for that reason, we are multidimensional. And the moment that you can start working multidimensionally speaking is the moment that results will start coming to you rather than you feeling like you're running towards them. So let me get into the next part. Okay, so the next part that I'm going to take you guys through is why life responds to states and not action. And ultimately, something that I find quite hilarious and humorous in today's society is that we pedestalize suffering. We find that there is nobility in suffering, but there is nothing noble in suffering besides suffering itself. We think that it's virtuous, but there is nothing virtuous about living a life and seeing results that we do not wish to see, experiencing a reality we do not wish to see for someone else's benefit. There is no benefit in that whatsoever. And I'm going to break down why that is in just a moment. So ultimately, what we need to understand is that your state creates. And what I find is that most people are taking action from the wrong state and thus experiencing unwanted results. So they're taking all the right action. They are, putting themselves first. They're going to the gym, working on the business, going on dates, trying to build a romantic relationship, but they are in a state of scarcity, lack, poverty, loneliness, fear, guilt, worry, doubt, shame, all of these very low frequency vibrations. They are embodying a state which does not serve them. And because of that, they're seeing results that they don't wish to see. The date falls to shit. The business doesn't have enough sales. There's not enough people coming to your business. The money's not coming in the way you want it to. Your career's not advancing the way you want it to. You could take all the right action. You could be the first one in, the last one out. You could be working nonstop like a machine, doing everything, and your job that you want to, the new role that you want to get in your job, your career, gets given to someone else. The business opportunity gets given to someone else. The girl gets stolen by another guy or vice versa. And you sat there scratching your head like, what? That was supposed to be me. That was supposed to be mine. But it didn't end up that way. And ultimately, that's because you were in the wrong state. And at the end of the day, if you wish to see a specific result, then you must embody the state of it being done. And what that means is ask yourself, what would it feel like if I had what I desire? What would my dream reality look like? Paint it in detail. What type of car are you driving? What type of person are you? What type of house do you live in? How do you feel? How do you act? How do you think? And the most important one is how do you feel, I would say. You'd be feeling content. You'd be feeling in control of your own life. You would not be feeling fear, doubt, worry, shame, apathy, guilt. Yet that's what you're choosing to embody every single day. And they are, those states, the fear, doubt, worry, guilt, shame, they are ultimately disconnected from God. And that's what it means. It says in the Bible that you cannot worship two gods at the same time, yet a lot of you worship your struggles. You worship fear. You worship worry and doubt. If you were to worship God through and through, you wouldn't actually be worshiping your problems by giving them worry, by giving them your mental energy. So in order to break free and see the reality that you want to, where you are not struggling, where you do not have problems, you need to embody the state that I'm about to tell you. So ultimately, what I want you guys to get is that your state ultimately is another word for your frequency. Your frequency is comprised of a couple things, which is your focus. What are you consistently fixated on? Are you fixated on problems? Are you fixated on complaining? Are you fixated on things going right or wrong? That type of stuff. The second one is your beliefs. What do you believe to be true about yourself, about life, about money, about success, the world, life, everything? So the more that you can understand, and ultimately your frequency is compromised of your level of awareness. So how aware you are within your life. Because the more aware you are, the higher is your frequency. The more awareness, the more frequency. So you want to be in a high level of awareness, because the higher you are aware, the higher that you can understand what is going on with what your frequency is compromised of. So your beliefs and what you are focusing on, your emotional state. Are you embodying an emotional state that is actually serving you? Are you embodying love, joy, passion, creativity, passion itself? If the answer is no, then chances are you're embodying all of the low frequency ones: doubt, worry, anger, fear, guilt, shame. And what they're doing is disconnecting you from God. simply put. Perception. How do you perceive life? How do you perceive success? How do you perceive business? How do you perceive love? How do you perceive relationships extrapolated across the board? How do you perceive every single area of your life? Because ultimately, the way that you see things is the way that they see you. And the way that you see life is the way that life sees you. So if you see life as hard, life will give you things for it to be hard about. Pause. That's a big pause, but ultimately you get what I'm trying to say. The way that you see things is the way that they see you. And conviction, how much confidence do you have within yourself? That when you say something that you're going to do it, when you say that this thing is going to be my result, that's going to be my life, that's my vision, do you actually believe it? Do you have conviction? Do you establish your word as law? Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people talk shit. And for that reason, they talk so much shit that their word means nothing to them internally speaking. And if it means nothing to you internally speaking, then it means nothing to the universe. So if your words mean nothing, then they'll treat it as nothing. Conviction. So lastly, I put down a little success formula. By no means are we done with this video yet, but this is just a little nugget that you guys can write down. This is the success formula that I've come up with. So obviously your state creates, and that is more important than action at some level. Obviously you need to take action because we live on 3 planes of existence: mental, spiritual, physical. But if you only take physical action and you don't do the mental and spiritual work, then you ain't going to be getting to your results. So what I would say is get in the right state first, then take action second. Because when you're in the right state, you are going to take the right action, simply put. So let's get in the next one. Okay, so the last part that I'm going to take you guys through is the game rewards self-expression. Ultimately, I know this is going to be a little bit of a shorter video, but I want to just get straight to the point so you guys can actually start embodying this and doing this to get to your results a lot quicker. What I want you guys to understand is that force will always lead to friction. Friction is resistance, and resistance is repulsive to the universe. The more resistance that you are embodying, the more resistance that you cultivate within your reality and your life, then the more resistance that you will experience externally speaking in this physical plane of reality. But when you switch from force to expression, and what I mean by expression is self-expression through identity. You're not doing a habit because you kind of want to do it or you should do it so that the business is successful or that you get the job or that you get the girl, but you do it because you genuinely want to do it. You do it because it's tied with your identity. And this is important. Action taking out of identity, it will be sustainable, but more importantly, it will be aligned. So if you were taking expressive action, that will lead to flow. I'm sure you've heard the concept of flow state. People, athletes, high performers, high achievers who just naturally get into a state of flow where they are effortlessly working with such creativity and passion and pure presence that their results become inevitable. That's where flow comes from, is self-expression, which is tied in your identity and your frequency. When you can embody a frequency and broadcast a frequency of the person that you want to be, your action will be seen as self-expression instead of something that you just have to do. And that will ultimately help you get into flow state a lot easier. So with that being said, inauthentic action leaks your energy. So let's say that every single day you have a finite amount of energy, right? And every single time you take an action, it replenishes, it diminishes with time. But when you are taking action, when you're forcing action, it's always going to go down, right? It's always going to go down. But when it's out of alignment, you will actually sometimes feel more energized from the action that you're taking. And then it feels like a reward, like you're gaining dopamine from doing the thing. And those are the most hyper successful individuals who get all the reward from the inputs rather than fixating on the outputs. Okay, so it's playing the game of life in your favor. And I want you guys to understand that you can't win as someone you're not. Because if you're embodying a version of you that doesn't feel aligned, all the action is going to leak energy. So every single day feels like a drag. And if it feels like a drag, you'll only show up for so long until eventually you quit or you burn out. And that's not what I want for you guys. So ultimately, the game rewards coherence. And that is coherence between identity and action, frequency and the reality that you want to see. If you wish to be in a reality but you're in the wrong frequency, forget about it, right? Forget about it. Here's how you can fix it. Okay, so the fix. I put it into a 3-step format, nice and simple and easy for you guys, but clear cut and straight to the point. Number 1 is act from identity every single day. You need to ask yourself, how would the higher version of me feel, think, and act on a daily basis to hit the goals, to have accepted and created the reality that you wish to see. If the CEO version of you, let's say there's a CEO version of you with the CEO frequency, what does that look like? Do you feel contempt? Do you feel proud? Do you feel confident? Do you have conviction? How do you act? What behaviors do you have? What habits do you have? Do you wake up early? Do you go to bed late? Do you do X, Y, and Z? What do you spend on? Start embodying that every single day. Number 2 is remove force and prioritize alignment. So instead of just taking mindless action, what I want you guys to do is get into the right state every single morning. And you can do this in a couple of ways, but ultimately we know that frequency is directly correlated to awareness. So the higher level of your awareness, the higher level of your frequency, and it's easier to control your frequency when you are in a higher level of awareness. Now, some examples of how you can prioritize alignment and gain that higher awareness to improve your state is going on a walk with no music, of course. Just go on a walk. And I know it sounds too simple. It's like, what? But you go on a walk, no music, just simply being. Because ultimately, what all these things that I'm going to list, what they're mainly doing is prioritizing you to get calm, but more importantly, to get present, to just sit with yourself and be in the present moment without worrying about the past or being fixated on the future, simply being. Another one is meditation. Don't roll your eyes. Journaling. Or don't know why I spelled it like that. Anyway, sit with yourself. These might sound boring as shit, but I'm telling you right now, the more that you can cultivate this, the more awareness you have. When you have awareness, you can become aware of your thoughts, your beliefs, etc., and directly control your emotions. When you prioritize your state first thing in the morning, it's funny because I see a lot of people, a lot of hyper successful individuals speak about this. They may not understand it metaphysically speaking, but they understand its importance in some aspect. I heard an interview of Denzel Washington. And someone asked him, like, what's one of your main habits? Like something that you do every single day since, you started and now where you are and you're still doing it since you're successful. And he ultimately said, I wake up every single morning and I sit with myself and God. Whether he knew that, that's meditation. It is stillness. It is solitude. What you are doing is allowing yourself to just not have any inputs, right? Because when we are consistently filled with music, social media, the news, TV, this, that, we are actually blocking out our ability to listen to God. Praying, right? This is what I want everyone to understand. When you pray, you're like trying to telephone God. That's like speaking to God. But then when God's trying to speak to you, you're too busy. You ain't listening. You can't hear that guidance, that intuition, that inner guidance. You can't hear what the next step is, right? So what I want you guys to do is just cultivate a level of stillness. And what Denzel ended up saying was the more stillness that he cultivated for that first 30 minutes every single morning, the better his day went because he knew what he wanted to achieve. He felt as if it was already done. He got in the right state before he created an amazing day. So that's what I want you guys to do. And the last part is choose a calm certainty over urgency. Don't start rushing around. Now, because you're in the right state and you think, feel, and you're acting as the higher version of you, don't start running around like a headless chicken. You consistently want to tie back to this question and ask yourself, what's that higher version of me thinking, feeling, and doing? And am I doing that right now? And what I want you guys to ultimately understand is that calmness equals creation. The more calm you have, the more contempt you have in your life, the easier it is to impress your subconscious mind. Whatever your subconscious mind impresses will be directly experienced in your external reality. It will seek to try and help you experience it. It's like a soldier. You give it an order, it's going to fulfill it, right? So the more calm you have within your life, the more you evoke a sense of peace, stillness, calmness, the easier it is to create positive thoughts, positive beliefs, and impress your subconscious mind and therefore see it in your reality. Pen drop. But ultimately, the game of life is not rigged, right? It's not working against you. It's not the fact that you were unlucky. It's just that you weren't working in alignment with the way that it works. So what I want you guys to do is take everything that you've learned from in this video and start applying it so that you can actually make the game of life work in your favor. But like always, see you in the next one.